temperatures, but seriously, not much of a break. Tomorrow we're up to 98 and then back up to the triple digits by Wednesday and pretty close to 100 for most of the week. Right now in downtown Salt Lake City, partly cloudy skies and 88 degrees. Boyd Matheson, Inside Sources, is up next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, we're counting down 9 days until the historic announcement, Salt Lake City 2034.
It's 1 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. Health officials in eastern Utah are still investigating after a dozen swimmers got sick at the Comfort Inn pool in Vernal on Saturday and went to the hospital. Tri-County Health Department spokesperson Sydney Lamb says looks like a pipe carrying acid broke. That led to vomiting and respiratory issues with the swimmers. Everyone was discharged from the hospital later that day.
But everyone's okay, and we are monitoring the situation, and we will only open the pool if and when it is safe to.
Yeah, officials are still investigating the cause of the pipe break. Lamb says this type of incident is extremely rare. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Republican delegates at the party's national convention in Milwaukee are practicing a fist-pumping gesture similar to what former President Trump did as he was being rushed off stage on Saturday. They're also expecting to learn who his choice of a running mate will be. Trump is expected to speak to the crowd tonight. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day, 286 points right now. The NASDAQ is up 95. And our KSL weather, we've got a chance for a thunderstorm today, and then things get hot later this week. That's next. KSL News Time 101.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
On Wednesday, August 14th, the Orrin G. Hatch Foundation will present U.S. Senator John Thune with the Titan of Public Service Award at the Grand American Hotel in Salt Lake City. You're invited to join Senator Thune, a senior member of Senate leadership, as we pay tribute to his decades of public service to our country. Seats are limited, so reserve your tickets today for this special event at OrrinHatchFoundation.org. That's ORRIN Hatchfoundation.org.
You've been working so hard to keep your lawn and garden looking good. Maybe it's time to make your home look incredible with new window frames and double-pane glass from Advanced Window Products. If you can imagine it, they can create it at their factory in Salt Lake City. Any style, any color, security enhancements to keep your family safe. All this and factory direct pricing. You're buying local and paying less. So seal up your home and reap the energy savings with Advanced Window Products, where they've been creating windows for 38 years. No subcontractors, they're not resellers. They build the windows, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. And right now at their summer special, get an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. They offer 0% financing and even buy now, pay later. Busy season's just hitting. Call now. Advanced Window Products, $2,500 off. But you have to call 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. Or go to advancedwindowsusa.com.
Soak up the savings this summer from Family Dollar. It's never been easier. Just download the Family Dollar app, sign up for Smart Coupons, and see how you can save more than ever before. Enjoy smoking hot deals on cookout classics, or get ready for outdoor fun with SPF for the whole family, plus pool toys, decor, and so much more. Check out the app today and get ready to save with the Family Dollar Summer Savings Event. New offers drop every week. Family Dollar, helping you do more.
Josh loves summers in Utah, but he hates to paint year after year, so he called Rhino Shield.
We have a cedar-sided home at the edge of the woods, painted like 1980s beige, and we wanted something that was more of a mid-century and modern look. We were driving around and we saw a sign in somebody's yard and said Rhino Shield. It's not paint.
Rhino Shield ceramic technology is formulated for our unique climate here in Utah and is Class 1 fire rated.
Gave Rhino Shield a call, and in fact, they were fantastic with the arrangement on schedule. The 25-year guarantee was important to us. This is our forever home, and we want to make sure that whatever we're doing is going to last a long time.
Utah, you can have the 25-year guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield for 10% off the regular price.
I'd say if you're thinking about Rhino Shield, just do it. It's been 2 years now, and it still looks like the day it went on.
This offer is limited, so call 435-246-4466, 435-246-4466, or RhinoShieldWest.com.
Go Rhino Shield. You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the nines, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Ricky Meese.
We do have a crash on southbound I-15, about 1300 south, out of traffic on the shoulder. It's in the final cleanup stages and no delays. Fill up your bucket list in Box Elder County. History, recreation, and wildlife, and excellent dining and shopping await you. Learn more at visitboxeldercounty.com. Sponsored by the Utah Office of Tourism. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Mostly sunny today with a high of 97. There's a chance of thunderstorms over the mountains, possibly getting into the valleys of the Wasatch Front. It gets hot again on Wednesday. Right now we're at 88 degrees. It's partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson. On Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, over the last 48 hours, we have had a torrent of headlines across the country, of course, beginning with the former president holding a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, an assassination attempt, the beginning of the Republican National Convention, a vice presidential pick that will happen within the next hour or so, what we're hearing, and a lot of headlines beyond that. President of the United States addressing the nation from the Oval Office. That's a rarity these days. And all of these headlines are important. They all deserve our attention. And yet there's something beyond the headlines that to me is the epitome of what we've got to think again about in this nation. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, all the headlines, of course, over the last 48 hours have been going fast and furious and everywhere. And we're going to continue to watch those. Those are important things for us to talk about. The reports we're hearing now is that we will have an official vice presidential selection coming up shortly, and all eyes and all indications point to J.D. Vance, senator from Ohio, being that pick. We'll continue to follow that. We'll go to that live when that does happen. Right now at the convention, they are in the midst of the roll call, which will actually commit all of those delegates to the former president and make him formally the nominee. Now, the thing that I think we're missing beyond the headlines today is, I think, the real important message that is indicative of where we are as a nation. In the course of the tragedy that took place at a political rally, a peaceful political rally on Saturday, one individual lost their life in the process while protecting their own family. And that has been under the headlines, and there's even more underneath that I think we're completely missing in this moment, which is exactly why we are in this moment. Now, yesterday, I think the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, gave the most important speech of the weekend, more important than any statements that were issued by any other elected official, including the president of the United States and the former president. He honored the citizen who was shot and killed at the rally. Take a listen.
We lost a fellow Pennsylvanian last night, Corey Comparator. I just spoke to Corey's wife and Corey's 2 daughters. Corey was a girl dad. Corey was a firefighter. Corey went to church every Sunday. Corey loved his community. And most especially, Corey loved his family. Corey was an avid supporter of the former president and was so excited to be there last night with him in the community. I asked Corey's wife if it would be okay for me to share that we spoke. She said yes. She also asked that I share with all of you that Corey died a hero, that Corey dove on his family to protect them last night at this rally. Corey was the very best of us.
So that was the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, giving a message honoring the citizen that perished in that assassination attempt on the former president. And we're going to dig into all of that because, again, I think this is indicative of where we are as a country and part of the problem with our politics in this country. Now, as I said just a moment ago, the former president, Donald Trump, has posted to Truth Social now that J.D. Vance is indeed going to be his running mate. There'll be some formal things, I think, coming along over the course of the next hour. We'll cover all of those. So, again, J.D. Vance, current senator from Ohio, and there's a lot underneath that, and we'll break that down and what that means and what that indicates, the signals that is sending to the nation, and how that will impact the rest of this convention and the president's speech, which he said has been changed, that he has gone to a more unified message. I think the selection of J.D. Vance is counter to a unity message, but we'll break that down and explore all of that as we move along here on Inside Sources. So stay with us. We're going to go wall-to-wall on all of these important issues of the day, and I want to make sure we understand and really focus in on the actual important thing over the weekend, that someone who had shown up at a political rally to be part of the festivities, who is a supporter of the former president, who was there with his family, a girl dad, a volunteer firefighter, someone who made a difference in their community, lost their life. And the ripple effect through that family and through that community is what we should be focusing on. And I get it. I get the headlines. I get all the political play. I get all of that. And I think this is indicative of where we are and why we are where we are. And so we'll go back. We'll get to all the headlines and all the political ramifications and what it means for the race and the country and all of that. We'll get to all of that. But here's what I want you to think again about today. Within very short amount of time after Corey was identified as a person who was killed in the shooting, immediately online, people began to undermine and to go at him, the deceased, because of things that he had posted on social media as a supporter of the former president. So here you had someone who was just assassinated, someone who was just killed by a shooter while protecting his family. And we have people in this country who are so comfortable with their contempt that they're going to start picking apart his social media because he made posts that were supportive of the former president. That's a look in the mirror moment, folks. And I think we are failing miserably at such moments. And so I would encourage all of you, I think everyone should go back and listen to the remarks yesterday from the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, as he talked about Corey. He wasn't just a man. He wasn't just someone who was at a rally. He was part of their community. Someone who was doing the things we talk about on this show every day. He was looking for things that were inspiring. He was saying things that mattered. He was doing things as a volunteer firefighter, a girl dad, to make a difference. And we can't stop for 27 seconds to just honor that. that we immediately have to start questioning, well, if he was at the rally, then clearly there's something wrong with him because he's a former President Trump supporter. And what else did he say on his social media posts? And how did he vote in 2016? And on it goes, down the rabbit hole. And it is a race to the bottom. Now, you had both the former president and the current president calling for us to think again about the temperature, to turn it down, to dial it back. Can we not do that? I have said it many times. We have gotten far too comfortable, one, with our contempt in this country, but we've also become far too comfortable with moments. We have a moment of silence after a tragic shooting. We have a moment of gathering together in the face of something that took place in a community. We have a moment together after a natural disaster of some kind. We're really good at moments. But I'm telling you, the only path forward is to create a movement. And if we want to have a unity movement in this country, it's going to take more than the President of the United States just saying, just dial it down. Just lower the temperature. We need leaders who will lead by saying, here's what I'm going to do today to lower the temperature. Here's what my campaign's going to do. And this is not just for those running for the highest office in the land. It's for everyone, all of us. Whether you're running for office or not, what are you going to do today? What am I going to do today to dial it down? What am I going to do today to make sure that I'm not allowing contempt for those that I disagree with to dominate my behavior, my opinions, or to canker my soul for that matter? We have to get to a different spot. And the most telling thing to me of the entire weekend, of all the horrible things that took place, including someone being in a position to make an assassination attempt on a former president and a presumptive nominee of a party, of all of the things that went wrong over the weekend, the fact that on social media we couldn't even take a moment to honor a good human being who was making a difference, who actually gave his life for his family to protect them from a killer and a shooter. Until we start changing that dynamic, folks, we're going to have moments. We'll have moments of national unity. We'll have moments on the steps of capitals. We'll have candlelight vigils that'll be nice moments, but that's not moving us anywhere. We've got to cure the contempt problem in this nation. And that starts with you. That starts with me. That starts with all of us together. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. Multiple rounds fired at the former president.
It just happened so fast. Of course, they rushed the building. It was chaos.
But how did it happen?
There is a nagging question about that elevated position.
Get full coverage and analysis from the voices you trust. Trump shooting investigation.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
As always, our friends at Hercules Credit Union are about growing stronger together with you. You're not just a transaction. You're family. You're a relationship that needs to be built. They've been growing stronger together since 1946. And right now you can go into any location at Hercules Credit Union in Taylorsville or Harriman, Riverton, or you can always go online to HerculesCU.com and they'll show you. They won't just tell you. They'll show you. Whether that's opening a business account and having no fees connected with any of that, to getting a home loan with Home Court Advantage, or whether it's opening up a new checking account and having $150 added to your account when you sign up for direct deposit. All of these things are part of what they do every day at Hercules Credit Union. They'll do it for you. They'll build a relationship that will help you grow strong financially for the future. As I said, you can check out their locations in Taylorsville, Harriman, or Riverton, or online at HerculesCU.com.
My wife and I always loved doing everything together. Jiu-jitsu, kayaking, and intimacy was always on point. It was around my early 30s when I noticed a downward trend. Watching a lot of TV, putting on weight, and just full of self-doubt. I had tried another men's clinic with disappointing results. It's the personalized treatment I receive at Revive Men's Health that has been the complete game changer for me. I've got my energy and motivation back. I'm feeling stronger than I did in my 20s, and it made me a much better husband to my wife.
I'm Eric Ramos, healthcare provider at Revive Men's Health. If you are always feeling tired or moody, have a difficult time sleeping, or decreased libido, you may be suffering from low testosterone.
Book your free T-check and exam at Revive Men's Health Salt Lake City. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Let's face it, nothing makes you look older than you really are than thinning hair. But what if you could not only increase your hair count, but promote new hair growth without surgery, without drugs with potential side effects, and without a prescription from your doctor? Well, now you can, thanks to a breakthrough new supplement called Hair Grow, provided by New Nordic, the #1 supplier of dietary supplements in Europe. Hair Grow is now available in the U.S. Only Hair Grow contains Tocogaya, a powerful antioxidant that has received a U.S. patent. Multiple clinical studies show Hair Grow is safe and effective in promoting new hair growth. In one study, 95% of the patients using Hair Grow saw increased hair count. Don't lose more time and more hair. Try Hair Grow today to feel and look your best. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS. Look younger and feel more confident with Hair Grow by New Nordic at NewNordicUSA.com, or in stores at your local CVS.
At JCW's, we think tipping might be getting a little out of hand. Like when you're asked to tip at the register before you've even been served, or when you're at the yogurt shop and find yourself serving yourself. And don't even get us started on frosted tips making a comeback. That's why at JCW's, when you pay for a 3rd-pound ranch bacon cheeseburger, that's what you pay. And no one at the register is going to stare longingly at you while you awkwardly maneuver through the tip screen for food you don't even have yet. Honestly, we're just happy to see you at any of our 5 locations in Provo, South Jordan, Lehigh, Harriman, and American Fork. So come on in and enjoy some quality time and great food with family and friends. And we promise, we won't be pushing you for a tip.
Hey, this is Chris with JCW's, and we just want to say thank you, and especially to our loyal customers. We want you to know that at JCW's, your business is all the tip we need. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
Common Spirit Health, hospitals, clinics, and caregivers, all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, an acid spill at a hotel pool in Vernal sent a dozen people to the hospital last weekend. Second, Republican delegates in Milwaukee are practicing the fist-pumping gesture, similar to what former President Trump did as he was being rushed off stage on Saturday. Third, we're in the middle of a surge in COVID cases this summer. 88 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Well, welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. I am Boyd Matheson. It's great to be with you today. A lot of headlines breaking today. In fact, as we speak, the official tally of delegates has just put the former president over the top as the official nominee. We were just watching it here on the screen as we were coming back from break, and it was actually the Trump family casting the delegates for the state of Florida, which put the former president over the top. And he is now officially the Republican nominee, and they will continue on through this roll call vote over the next 20 or 30 minutes or so. It's one of those where every state gets to brag about what they love about themselves and what they do best. And then cast their delegate votes. It's always kind of a semi-entertaining, colloquial experience, I think, for each of the states to talk about themselves as they cast their ballots and those delegate votes. And this happens at both the Republican and the Democratic conventions. Always an interesting thing to watch. Here, highly orchestrated. Again, the roll call vote always goes in order, alphabetical order, with the exception that whoever the nominee is going to be usually gets to choose their home state to be the one to put them over the top and officially make them the nominee. And so that has held true as a tradition today. The Trump family there on the floor of the convention center there in Milwaukee. and they were the ones to say for the state of Florida, they cast those delegate votes for the former president, and he is now officially the nominee for the Republican Party. So lots of cheering, lots of things going on there in Milwaukee. We'll continue to track all of that. If you missed it just a moment ago, we had breaking news on the VP sweepstakes. It is officially over. The former president announced that he has chosen J.D. Vance, a Republican senator from Ohio. He is 39 years old, and he is a first-term senator. He's 2 years into his term. He won election in 2022. He's a former Marine, served in Iraq. Of course, he was the author of Hillbilly Elegy a few years ago. That really kind of launched him onto the national scene and kind of the conversations that many have picked up on in terms of what is happening in rural America in particular. So we'll continue to track all of that. We'll do a little deeper dive on what it means that the nominee for the Republicans, Donald Trump, chose J.D. Vance to be his running mate. We'll come back to that at the top of the hour at 2:05. We'll break that down just a little bit. And also we've got Representative John Curtis is joining us live from Milwaukee coming up at 1:35. So stick with us through the next break, and we'll have a chat on scene there to see what is happening and what the sense is for the Utah delegation there in Milwaukee as all of this continues to move forward at the Republican convention. All right, now I want to backtrack us a little bit. Again, it's hard to believe that it is less than 48 hours since the horrific events that took place in Pennsylvania over the weekend, the assassination attempt on the former president, the tragic death of Corey I always mispronounce his name. I apologize. Competitor, who was killed by an assassin's bullet. Two others are in stable condition in the hospital. Also, we always have to give a shout out to Secret Service. Yes, they will be going through what went wrong, and we should also note what they did right in terms of running in and protecting the former president and presumptive nominee for the Republicans. Now I want to get to the aftermath of all of that. And where we are, of course, President Biden spoke over the weekend several times. He addressed the nation. He made official statements, of course, shortly after the events took place. He was attending a mass in Delaware, where he often spends the weekends, when he found out about the assassination attempt. He also issued some statements online. And then yesterday he spoke to the nation twice, really, once with kind of an update kind of conversation. And then last night, he spoke from the Oval Office. This is only the third time in his presidency that he has addressed the nation from the Oval Office, so that's significant. And he was trying to create a moment for the country to dial it down. So he spoke from the Oval Office, talked about the shooting, condemning all forms of political violence.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence, period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. We all have a responsibility to do that.
We all have a responsibility to do that. The president went on to say, and he mentioned and kind of brought everyone's memory back. Everyone says, man, we haven't had this for a while. The reality is we've kind of had a steady drip of this intermittently in our history in this country. And President Biden reminded us of some of those and why we have to be on guard, because when we're not, that's when they tend to happen.
We cannot, we must not go down this road in America. We've traveled before throughout our history. Violence has never been the answer. Whether it's with members of Congress of both parties being targeted and shot, or a violent mob attacking the Capitol on January 6th, or a brutal attack on the spouse of former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi.
So those are some of those more recent memories. Of course, Gabby Giffords in 2011. Steve Scalise, of course, was shot by a Bernie Sanders supporter back in 2017 while practicing for the congressional baseball game. A great event there in Washington, D.C. Nancy Pelosi's husband, of course, was just 2 years ago, 2022. And then we go back further in our history with Reagan and Martin Luther King Jr. and John F. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy. And on we go. And so this is not a totally new territory, but it is territory that we need to be more mindful of and to move forward from. as I mentioned at the outset of the program today, we've gotten really good at pausing for moments in this country. We have lost, I think, our muscle memory and our connective tissue that binds us together as a country. And that prevents us from actually moving, creating a movement to go forward. I really, really was hoping yesterday to hear something from President Biden that would say, this is what I'm going to do. This is my responsibility. And then it would have been great if the former president would have also stepped forward. Now, we'll hear what he says in his speech coming up on Thursday, if it is a unity message and what unity actually means. And will it hold? Will it hold till Thursday? I have questions about that. But no one has stepped forward to say, I'm going off social media for a week. Or I'm going to take the next 3 weeks and I'm instructing my campaign to not mention my opponent's name at all in any ad or any fundraising activity. I'm going to talk about either my accomplishments, more importantly, my vision for where I think we need to go as a nation. And then to call on the American people to do the same, to settle a grievance with a former friend or a neighbor, to change the dynamics of what we do on social media, and to move things forward together. But we all have to take action. If we just pause for a moment, we're not going anywhere. We've got to come together and take the actions together, forward, consistently, regularly, if we're going to change the dynamic in the nation. We'll be right back.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomis. KSL's top story this hour. And we have breaking news. Former President Trump has chosen Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as his running mate. Trump made the announcement on his Truth Social feed this afternoon. Vance is best known as the author of the memoir Hillbilly Elegy, and in choosing Vance as the party's vice presidential candidate, he passed over several better-known Republicans, including Senators Marco Rubio and Tim Scott. A judge in Florida has dismissed the classified documents case against former President Trump, calling the appointment of special counsel Jack Smith unconstitutional. Not clear yet what effect this decision will have on the other federal case against the former president, the one in Washington, also brought by special counsel Smith. We're seeing the annual summer surge of COVID-19 now. CDC reporting a high number of cases across the West, including Utah, Nevada, California, and Oregon. The respiratory disease epidemiologist with the Utah Department of Health and Human Services, Josh Benton, says this is because more people are on the go and in large crowds during the summer.
People are traveling more in the summer, and then, typically people get the updated kind of booster shots in the fall, so by the time summer rolls around, that immunity may be waning.
Benton says numbers peak in the winter as well when people gather inside to stay warm. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up 299 points on the day right now. The NASDAQ is up 100 points. And our KSL weather looks like we're going to see hot weather coming back. That's next. KSL News Time 1:32.
Hey, what are you doing up on the step stool?
About to clean these light fixtures. The whole family's coming over, and if there's even a speck of dust in the house, my abuela will find it.
Here, I got a Swiffer duster to help with that.
A Swiffer what?
A Swiffer duster. It has this cool extendable handle that reaches 6 feet to get high and low, with fluffy dusters that easily trap and lock dust.
So no more step stool?
No more step stool.
Easily trap and lock dust from hard-to-reach places with the Swiffer duster. Love it or your money back.
We all know what UV rays can do to our skin, but they can also do damage to your car. Keep that from happening with 303 Protectant. 303 Protectant keeps the sun's harmful rays from causing fading and cracking in rubber, plastic, or vinyl surfaces. From the dashboard to the tires, 303 Protectant keeps your car looking new longer. Get 303 Protectant today at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Visit 303radio.com for more information.
Feeling the heat at home in places your air conditioning can't reach? You might be overlooking a common culprit, your attic ventilation. Poor attic ventilation can spike your energy bills and shorten your roof's lifespan. Don't sweat it out this summer. Master Roofing is here to help. This July, Master Roofing is offering a free attic ventilation inspection and 20% off all attic ventilation services. Certified inspectors are ready to optimize your home's comfort and efficiency. Call 801-383-0072 or visit masterroofingutah.com to schedule your free inspection today.
It's camping season and Motor Sportsland RV Centers are offering huge savings on your next RV. Don't miss another season of outdoor memories and adventure. Right now you can save tens of thousands during our summer sales event offers. Like our 17-foot bunk model Viking travel trailer, which is lightweight, easy to tow, and has all the necessities for only $15,995 with payment options as low as $165 a month. Or our 24-foot Thor Motor Coach Tiburon motorhome on a Mercedes Sprinter chassis for $68,000 off MSRP. These are real prices. We aren't like other dealers that advertise fake prices but then charge thousands for things that should already be included. If you sit down to make a deal and see an extra charge for freight or other creative fees or packages, you gotta get out of there. Save thousands with upfront pricing and get the RV of your dreams during Motor Sportsland's summer sales event today. Adventure awaits.
Let Motorsportsland help you get away.
Motorsportsland.com.
This song doesn't have a name, but if it did, it'd probably be something about togetherness, because it's a collaboration, not between pop stars and producers, but between music therapists and kids. Music therapy is a treatment that doesn't involve medication or needles, and it's been proven to help children manage pain and contribute to faster healing. So it shouldn't surprise you, it's our favorite song. And just one way we partner with you for a life well lived. Intermountain Health, the power of we.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Mace.
We do have some slowdown southbound I-15 in Weber County coming from Riverdale Road down to Roy. An accident called out westbound on the 201 at the ramp to go to westbound I-80. And the final cleanup of the crash on southbound I-15 at 1300 south on the shoulder. Hey, Utah County, Jones Paint and Glass is opening a new location in Payson. Be sure to come to their grand opening celebration on July 27th from 8 to 5. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Mostly sunny skies with a high of 97 today. There is a chance of thunderstorms over the mountains. Those could spill into the valleys of the Wasatch Front. It'll get hot again, up to 100 or more on Wednesday. 90 degrees, partly cloudy right now. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. Great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. Of course, a flurry of headlines. It's less than 24 hours from an assassination attempt on a former president and now the nominee for the Republican Party. We had J.D. Vance, of course, announced as the vice presidential pick. We'll break that down coming up at the top of the hour. And a lot of things happening in Milwaukee right now. The official nomination has been secured. It was done by the Trump family, casting those delegate votes for the state of Florida that put the former president over the top to once again, for the third time now, be the official Republican nominee. And there's so many things going on underneath all of those headlines. And as we often do, we turn to Representative John Curtis, who is somewhere in Milwaukee. Some secure, undisclosed location there.
Boy, I'm laughing because that undisclosed location is a stairway where it's the only place I could find that was quiet enough to talk to you.
I know where some of those places are. When you're at a convention like that, any stairwell will do. Anywhere underneath a bleacher will do. But
it's
give us
not very glamorous, but here I am.
well, give us a sense. Obviously, two big announcements coming out just in the last few minutes. Give us a sense of what you see and what's the overall mood, especially in light of what's taken place over the last 36 hours.
So, Boyd, the best way I can describe that is when you've been to a sporting event and momentum it shifts. It feels like the last couple of weeks have been a pretty substantial momentum shift, starting with the debate, of course, the assassination attempt, and dropping the charges, and the vice president. It just everybody feels like there's momentum that is almost overwhelming.
Fascinating stuff. And you've been to a number of these conventions, and it's always interesting that first day on the floor. I always feel sorry for the people who speak on the first day because nobody's listening to anything.
I think that's true.
Well, give us a sense of some of the people that you've interacted with. What's kind of the mood of the Utah delegation as things get underway?
Well, I'll tell you what. I walked into the hotel lobby this morning to meet the Utah delegation to take the bus over, and you would think that it was sorry for the lack of better words, a frat party. They were happy and smiling and laughing and enjoying each other's company. It was a lot of camaraderie, and everybody really enjoying being together.
That's great. And that conventions are they're an interesting phenomenon in this country. I always say if an alien dropped in out of the sky and landed at either the Republican or the Democratic convention,
they would, true.
They may just pack up and go. I wanted to get your perspective. You say there's some momentum there. There's an energy that often takes place at those conventions. I wanted to get your perspective coming off of the weekend. I've been talking about it today in the context of we've gotten really good at this country at moments. We're good at pausing for a nanosecond, but we're not getting the forward movement thing. And I don't think that President Biden really addressed it, and I don't think the former president has really addressed it in terms of how do we, rather than just saying let's dial it down or tamp it down or cool it off or whatever, how do we actually do that, and what is our responsibility?
Well, I love the question. I am waiting with bated breath to hear from the president, because to me, this is a moment for him to seize. And if he seizes it and he brings this nation together, and he's able to be true to who he is, but at the same time speak in terms that unites and brings us together, it will be incredibly powerful. And I think will shape him in a way that history would be very kind to. And so I'm very anxious to see. He'll speak to us today, but I think his real speech that will carry the most weight will be Thursday, and I think it will tell us a lot. And some of the early indications make me feel optimistic, but we'll see. I'm hoping it's that speech that can unite us.
I think that's such an important piece to that. And are you sensing that he will probably speak after the roll call is done, kind of as a validation of that or acceptance of that?
Well, I'll tell you what. Somebody told me this is the first time they've ever seen a list of speakers and no times next to them. Oh. So I don't, I don't dare say, but it's understood that he'll be on the floor this afternoon. Somebody said 4. We'll see. But all things are in flux. But that's kind of what our expectations are. Is we'll hear from him this afternoon, and then, of course, Thursday evening.
Yeah, and that'll be fascinating. And having worked behind the scenes of some of those, I know how focused they get on everything is timed to the second in all of those. So to have a list of speakers with no times, the poor floor manager is probably pulling his hair out if he hasn't already. Give us one other thing that has been kind of an observation in terms of in and around town at the hotel. We know there's a few little flurries of protesters outside the convention center there. What else is the sense of the city?
So I would say, somebody pointed out the protesters, and as a guy who spends a lot of time in D.C., I just laughed because I don't think, at least now, I came in one side, so there could be others. It didn't feel like there was much of a protester presence, but maybe that's just what I saw. The city, as I came in from the airport last night, there were a lot of billboards that were very positive about President Trump and President Trump to the city. I think they were doubling down. He said some things that could have been interpreted as negative about Milwaukee. So I think they'd gone through every archive and found anything nice they could say from the president to Milwaukee, and that showed up on a billboard. And so it just feels good. I would say there's not the sense of, I mean, you mentioned the assassination attempt. It doesn't feel like we're 2 days away from that. It feels optimistic, and everybody here is in a good mood.
Yeah.
It's early, but that's kind of the sense.
Yeah, and I think that's very interesting. I think the choice of J.D. Vance, I think, is an interesting component. Would love your take on that. Does this solidify that maybe we're going to end up back at grievance and populism as this with J.D. Vance?
So I'll tell you that I had a text exchange with a few people after that was mentioned, and that is true. But one of my staff actually pointed out this could be good for rural Utah. Somebody who understands rural.
Yeah.
And, that might be a silver lining, somebody that can really understand what they're dealing with. And, boy, if that's the case, and if he can be a voice for them, I would be very pleased.
Yeah, I think that's good. And I think I've triple dog dared every president to actually get the vice president to do the job, which is to preside over the Senate. And I know you have an upcoming vested interest in the Senate, but I've always thought if someone really wanted to make a difference, if the vice president, not just to break ties in the Senate, but actually ran the Senate the way it's described in the Constitution, rather than abdicating that, I think that would change everything.
Maybe with J.D. Coming from the Senate, who knows? We've had that before. But when I see him, I'll tell him that Boyd Matheson has an idea for him.
A triple dog dare. And if it's a triple dog dare, you can't not do it. So that's sort of the rule there.
I'll tell him.
All right. Great stuff. Great perspective. Somewhere in a secure hallway in the Convention Center in Milwaukee. Representative John Curtis, thanks as always. Great perspective. Appreciate it.
Okay. Talk to you. Bye.
All right. We're going to continue to watch things unfold in Milwaukee. Former President Donald Trump, for the third time, has officially become the Republican nominee for President of the United States. He has named his vice presidential running mate, J.D. Vance from Ohio. We'll break that down coming up at 2:05. Don't go anywhere. We've got more inside sources coming up next. We'll talk about one possible solution to the contempt problem that drives our political polarization in the country. We'll be right back.
Hey there, it's Julie from Logan, where we know how to celebrate summer. First, something super cool when it's really hot. Logan has a brand new plaza downtown with music and games and a splash pad for kids. I mean, I said kids, but hey, we don't judge. Jump in. Keep it cool by stepping inside one of 3 historic theaters for more than 250 professional live performances in 5 weeks. Wow, nobody does that. But we do, because we're Utah's heart of the arts. Chill on Center Street before or after the show and sink your teeth into sourdough pizza, a brew and a burger, hand-dipped chocolates, or other delicious goodies from fun cafes. Don't forget, your hotel is only 10 minutes from the National Forest for hiking and biking. Take gorgeous photos of the stunning scenery and enjoy cooler temperatures in the canyon. Step back in time at the American West Heritage Center. You can hang out with a mountain man, have a pony ride, meet pioneers, and check out the farm. We've got a lot going on. Check us out at ExploreLogan.com. Inside or out, we're always a few degrees cooler. ExploreLogan.com. ExploreLogan.com.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 13 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and Nevada, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, or other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 90 days from a station contest or event are not eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com.
We have some exciting news to announce.
Master Electrical Service has joined Mountain Home Services.
And I can speak from experience, Deb. Mountain Home Services installed my furnace years ago, and it's been amazing.
And we know Master Electrical Service has been your trusted source for all your electrical needs, like your EV chargers, your generators, and recessed lighting.
But now that they've joined Mountain Home Services, they can help you with your HVAC, your heating and air, as well as your plumbing.
And it comes with that upfront pricing guarantee. I love the upfront pricing guarantee because it means no hidden fees.
100% satisfaction guarantee as well.
Master Electrical Service has been the name you trust since 1954.
They're the company we trust, and so can you.
Check them out now at mountainhomeutah.com.
That's mountainhomeutah.com, or give them a call at 801-543-2222. So easy to remember. 801-543-2222.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Every business faces challenges, but complicated, expensive, and uncertain shipping shouldn't be one of them.
With USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service, you can avoid all the noise.
No more unexpected surcharges, hidden fees, or complex rate structures.
It's just easy, cost-effective, and dependable shipping. Tune your business's frequency to success and turn shipping to your advantage. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable.
Wow. Biden's at it again.
Inflation, rising costs for everything. What now?
Try big government control of our Medicare drug benefit.
The more I hear, the more it seems we can't afford Biden's Medicare agenda.
They're right. And it's because seniors are already feeling the pain of Biden's drug coverage changes, with almost 2 million forced from their plans and spiked premiums for nearly 5 million more. Now, Congress wants to expand the Biden Medicare agenda even more. But studies show Biden's plan will restrict access, shrink coverage, and limit availability of needed drugs for all seniors. Thankfully, Congressman Blake Moore is a champion for Medicare drug coverage. Call him at 202-224-3121. Urge him to stop Biden's radical Medicare changes by opposing H.R. 4895 now. Paid for by Seniors for Better Care.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance is former President Trump's choice as the Republican candidate for vice president. Second, the classified documents case against Trump has been dismissed, but it's not clear yet what effect that could have on other cases in the federal and state courts. And third, Utah's experiencing a seasonal surge in COVID cases this summer. 90 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It is great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. A lot of things happening, of course, in the world today. We're continuing to keep our eye on the Republican convention. They're just finishing up the roll call there, and we are expecting that former President Trump, as the official nominee, may step to the stage here in the next 10 or 15 minutes, and we'll go to that live as he accepts the nomination formally. Of course, he just announced his running mate, J.D. Vance. We'll break that down coming up at 2:05. In all of our conversations from over the weekend and talking about the real problem we have in this country, which is contempt, that belief in the worthlessness of another person because you disagree with them, either because they think different or look different or live different or act different, worship different. And there's a way to get past all of that. And I wish that both the current and the former president would do a better job of calling all of us to do the things that will help us break down that the contempt and reconnect with one another. And so that's what we're going to do as we close out hour number 1. I am thrilled to have Jenny Wilson joining us in the studio. She's an influencer, an organizer, and high-impact player in this state. She also happens to be married to that guy who used to be the Speaker of the House in the Utah legislature, Brad Wilson, and former Senate candidate as well. And Jenny, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You have been doing something that I think is part of the solution when it comes to breaking down the barriers, getting out of our own bubbles, and it all has to do with story. Tell us about it.
Well, I've never considered myself a very political person, which is a little odd, the world I've lived in the past 15 years with my husband's public service. But when Brad and I decided that he would run, we tried to find a way that I could participate without becoming fully political, because that is not my wheelhouse or where I feel comfortable. And so we came up with this idea of genealogy, which is a website where we collect people's good things about Utah, what they love about this state, what they love about Utah, their stories, their pictures. We offer prompts, and people participate. And we find commonality. regardless of where we live or what we believe.
Yeah.
There's more that connects us than divides us.
Yeah, so important. And I love all of this. Everybody wants to be part of a story. And the Utah story is an amazing one just in and of itself. And it is so much more diverse than we ever really acknowledge. And it's so much more unique than I think we ever really celebrate. So kind of walk us through some of those stories, kind of patterned in that Utah way, that Utah model, and how we can get connected to that.
So we'll send out a prompt that says, what's your favorite hidden gem? And we have people all across the state that tell us, oh, you've got to try Zips up in Bear Lake, which I agree with. That's my favorite place in Bear Lake. Sorry, LeBeau's. Or I've spent my entire life going down to the Shakespeare Festival in Cedar City. And if you haven't been there, Utahns, come on, step up.
Yeah.
There's more than just Shakespeare down there, but if you come down and enjoy that festival, that experience, you will surprise yourself, you'll be entertained, and you'll be appreciative for what we have here in the state of Utah.
Yeah, there's so many great examples of that, of just Utah way kinds of things that really can. And once we start to recognize, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know people were interested in that in the state of Utah. Or, wow, they solved a problem in their community by doing this. A lot of those prejudice and bias and anger and discontent and all of those things start to melt away.
They truly do. I had the opportunity to work closely with the women of the Policy Project on a couple different of their initiatives and the way that they have impacted the communities throughout this state. These women who have been able to empower all of the soccer moms across the state to make a difference. People who normally don't get involved in politics or policy, but see a need, as Utahns do. That's the best thing about this state, is how empowered Utahns are to step in and help one another. We still consider our neighbors our friends, and we reach out. We're the most charitable state in the nation, and I think we're the happiest because of that. My grandpa used to say, happiness is a byproduct of service. And Utahns serve, and we look out for one another.
Yeah, I love that. So if you're looking for a good place to go today, if you're a little exhausted and exasperated by all the politics and all the drama and all the problems that we have in the nation and the world, just go to Genealogy. So it's JENIOLOGY.com. Genealogy.com. I love the name, by the way. And I love the way that this just connects people and creates a space and a forum where people can come and share some of that good news, or share something that inspired them, or someone who inspired them.
It has been humbling to see how many people are looking for somewhere safe on the internet that they can just share something positive, and people respond, because we all need that in this day and age.
We definitely do. So give us some examples. What has surprised you? You launched this, and of course it began in the midst of a campaign season as you were doing that, and clearly you struck a nerve somewhere. Or I wouldn't say struck a nerve, I'd say struck a chord that resonated with people in this state. But what have you learned in this process? What surprised you?
Well, I've always known that I'm a bit of a weirdo. And there's a lot of weirdos in Utah. We all have our own thing that makes us unique, and I think Utah still will celebrate others' differences and appreciate those. We don't have to join in with them, but it's okay. I think we get the most response whenever we bring up anything about pets. Utahns love their pets.
Well, that's one that actually surprises me. As a non-pet guy, I know I'll get bad hate mail for that, but that's interesting to me. What else in terms of the community connection? Because it's so interesting. There is great pride in this state about local community. I don't know any state in the nation that has more local parades, local days. I mean, we've just done in my neck of the woods. Just from I can see from my house, and we have Steel Days and Strawberry Days and American Fork Day. And we have all the different days. Community is still such a driving and connecting factor here.
It really is. We've sent out a prompt asking what makes your community unique, and those have been really fun to look through. This week we had a special guest article written by Kristen Andrus about how women can influence their communities and become part of their community. There is a real, I just went through this stage myself where you're so involved with your children, and once those children leave the nest, your community kind of left the nest. And she has written some things about how to get re-involved in your community on things that matter to you and how you can impact your neighborhood.
I love that. I love that. Give us one last thing before we let you go as we round out the hour that people should be thinking about today. What do you hope people really take away? What's the therefore what of genealogy?
Well, with the events of this weekend, I mentioned to you that I'd listened to you as I drove down here to the studio today and talking about how we have a lot of moments. Genealogy is a place where we can collect those moments. And when we recognize that there are more similarities that we have with others, that can give us the strength to turn those moments into a movement.
Yeah.
And to take that positivity and look for the good in the state and in the people and in our nation. We're going to be okay.
Yeah, we are going to be okay, and it is because of community. As long as we remember that community and culture lead, politics is downstream from all of those things. Jenny Wilson, thank you so much for joining us in studio today. Check out the website, Genealogy, Jeni, ology.com, Genealogy, and be part of it. Engage with it. There's some fantastic prompts and some ways to just connect, and as we come to understand one another, we can respect the dignity of others. We can see the humanity. We can even see the divinity in those around us, and that changes everything. If we want to change the course of the conversations in this country, this is where it begins. And so, Jenny, I want to thank you for your service because community service and public service is family service, and we appreciate that. And again, check out genealogy.com today. Be part of that conversation. That'll change your world. It'll change the rest of us as well. All right, that wraps up hour number 1 of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. We'll step aside for some top-of-the-hour news. We'll come back. We'll break down everything that's going on in Milwaukee today and beyond. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, we're counting down 9 days until the historic announcement, Salt Lake City 2034.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top story this hour. Salt Lake City's hit 100 degrees 9 times this year, which is how many triple-digit days we normally expect through an entire year. KSL meteorologist Matt Johnson says there's still a lot of summer to go.
We know that the window is now through early September where we can still see triple digits.
The all-time record for 100-degree days in a year was set 2 years ago with 34. Matt says we haven't had fewer than 9 100-degree days in a year since 2018. 39-year-old Ohio Senator J.D. Vance will be Donald Trump's pick to be his running mate. Sources tell ABC News Donald Trump Jr. is the one who led a strong behind-the-scenes push for Vance.
The same energy he's brought Republicans in the United States Senate, I want to see on this ticket, and I think he's going to do that for sure.
Vance is best known for his book and the movie Hillbilly Elegy. Now, after the former president announced his choice for vice president on Truth Social, Republican delegates officially nominated Trump for president at the convention. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day 210 points right now, while the NASDAQ is up about 74 points. And our KSL weather is headed back toward the triple digits later in the week. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:01.
You've been working so hard to keep your lawn and garden looking good. Maybe it's time to make your home look incredible with new window frames and double-pane glass from Advanced Window Products. If you can imagine it, they can create it at their factory in Salt Lake City. Any style, any color, security enhancements to keep your family safe. All this and factory direct pricing. You're buying local and paying less. So seal up your home and reap the energy savings with Advanced Window Products, where they've been creating windows for 38 years. No subcontractors, they're not resellers. They build the windows, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. And right now at their summer special, get an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. They offer 0% financing and even buy now, pay later. Busy season's just hitting. Call now. Advanced Window Products, $2,500 off. but you have to call 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindowsusa.com.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
You may have expected today to be like yesterday or the day before, but when it comes to what today really is, you may need to look again. You see, today's the day to reach out to Loyal Energy and ask about the $1,500 they have waiting for you if you're a homeowner and you commit to going solar. Yes, $1,500. That's pretty unusual, but actually, so is their name. Why Loyal Energy? Because their goal is to be your honest and loyal energy company that puts you first. Look, you're not stuck with your current energy company, and Loyal Energy's ready to help you break free with cutting-edge solar energy and roofing solutions that deliver clean and sustainable power. And they're willing to pay you $1,500 to go solar and start seeing savings from the first day. You weren't expecting this from today, but here it is. Transform your energy usage, reduce costs, and contribute to a sustainable environment at LoyalEnergy.com. LoyalEnergy.com.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
It's a delay-free drive, but crews are still cleaning up an accident westbound on the 21st South Freeway. At the ramp to go westbound on I-80, it's on the right shoulder. Get triple rewards points on your Rewards Visa card from Cyprus Credit Union when you spend on gas and travel from now through August. Learn more or apply today at cypruscu.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
It'll be mostly sunny with a high of 97 today. There's a chance of thunderstorms over the mountains, possibly getting into the valleys of the Wasatch Front. Gets hot again on Wednesday. Right now, 91 degrees, partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, the big headlines of the last hour were the fact that the former president, Donald Trump, for the third time, has become the Republican nominee for President of the United States. Also within the last hour, the former president has announced that J.D. Vance, Republican senator from Ohio, has been selected as his running mate, his VP candidate. And those are the big headlines. We want to get underneath those in terms of what messages are being sent. What will the impact be? Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Now, J.D. Vance may not be a huge household name, although he has made some waves over the years. Of course, he wrote his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, that really described him growing up in rural America, part of a family, a generational problem with addiction. And then, of course, he went on to serve in the Marines, went to Yale Law School, and kind of broke out of that cycle. So he understands that. So that's kind of where he launched onto the public scene. Then, of course, he ran for Senate in the state of Ohio in 2022, ultimately prevailed there, and has been serving as a United States Senator for the past 2 years. So thin resume in terms of politics, been very popular on the speaking circuit, the cable news circuit, and, of course, on social media. So the announcement of J.D. Vance as the vice presidential nominee, I think, is a fascinating one. And I think it portends where this is really going to go. He is very tightly connected to the former president and the message, particularly around grievance and a form of populism, one that's not necessarily connected to the principles. He's been involved in a lot of the very big battles, the vocal battles online on a lot of the culture war issues. And so to me, that's a signal from Mr. Trump of where he thinks this is going to go in terms of the race between he and President Biden. I think it demonstrates that he believes that President Biden is going to stay in. And I think if you're a Democrat today, I think Democrats are probably also happy that the choice is J.D. Vance, because his resume is fairly thin. Doesn't have a lot of international experience other than, of course, he did serve in the military as a Marine. He did serve in Iraq. So he does have that. But in terms of governing and that kind of interaction, foreign affairs, not a lot to go on there. He is 39 years of age, so he's definitely a whole lot younger than both the current and the former president. So that will be interesting to watch how that plays out as well. Also, just so you know, we are standing by, as I mentioned, former President Trump has secured the number of delegates required to be the Republican nominee. There is a chance that he will step out onto the stage there in Milwaukee and make some brief remarks, as brief as they may be. This will be the first public appearance in terms of a speech that the former president would give since Saturday, again, 36 hours ago. Is pretty stunning. So that will be interesting, and we'll go to that live here on KSL News Radio the moment that happens. So we'll keep our eye on that. We'll also keep our eye to see if we hear anything from J.D. Vance as the newly minted nominee for the Republicans for the vice presidential slot. In fact, let's go to a little bit of sound from J.D. Vance. He was on NBC's Meet the Press last week. And, of course, he was asked, the question of the day then was, had he gotten the call to become the vice president? He hadn't at that point. But this is what he did have to say.
Most importantly, Kristen, we're just trying to work to elect Donald Trump. Whoever his vice president is, he's got a lot of good people he could choose from. It's the policies that worked and the leadership style that worked for the American people. I think we have to bring that back to the White House, and I'm fighting to try to do that.
And then 4 days ago, the Ohio senator gave a speech at a national conservatism conference in Washington, D.C. He framed his political priorities as the reinvigoration of American industry and the revitalization of the American family. Take a listen.
We're going to disagree, of course, about how to best accomplish the reinvigoration of American industry and the renewal of American family. That's fine, but never forget that why we exist, why we do this, why we care about all those great ideas is because I would like eventually for my kids to know that the United States of America is as strong and as proud and as great as ever.
So that's J.D. Vance from just a few days ago, giving a speech in Washington, D.C., talking about policy. Now, that's an interesting thing. We haven't heard a lot of that from either side of the aisle for quite a while. It's been very political, all politics, and very polarized. And so it will be interesting to see how J.D. Vance deals with everything that's going to come his way starting today. He now, I'm sure, has a security detail. He will not have dealt with that before. So that will be a very interesting thing to see how that plays out. That's a game changer. That's a life-changing moment for sure. It will be interesting to see if he continues to lean into some of the things that made him a popular pick with some of the base of the Republican Party to be the VP nominee, even though he doesn't have a lot of national name recognition, so to speak, not a lot of heft there. But is popular with a lot of the base of the Republican Party. And will he stay in that space, or will he revert to some of his earlier things, which were very much policy-focused, in terms of the things that do make a difference in rural America, things that do make a difference in families? And will he stay on a positive, uniting message as the former president said he wants this convention to be about, that's going to be an interesting test. And I think that's going to be so indicative of where things are headed over the next 113 days between now and the first Tuesday of November, when the votes will be counted and somebody will win. And so it's an interesting season for J.D. Vance, very head-spinning, very heady space that he has entered into. How will he handle it? Another big test that not very many people will ever talk about, but it will also have a lot to do with his staff. So staffing matters, whether it's a senator or a member of Congress, whether it's the vice president or the president of the United States, or even just the CEO of a company. Staffing matters. And so you've got this little group. This is typically how things happen in politics. Someone decides to run for office, and you have a little ragtag group of people who get together and say, yeah, we think we can win this thing, or yeah, we'll volunteer for a campaign. And next thing you know, someone has become the communications director, or someone has become the chief of staff. Someone's going to be over policy. And now all of those people, remember, J.D. Vance only won election in 2022. And now suddenly those people that are closest to J.D. Vance are suddenly going to be in the middle of a white-hot spotlight. And how do they handle that? How does he handle that as a candidate of 24/7, very bright lights, very heady? Everyone's going to say how much they love him and that they always wanted him to be the vice presidential choice. He's going to hear that a gazillion times between now and the end of the convention. And then it will get even more in the days ahead. So how does he handle all of that? People, of course, on both sides of the aisle, the Democrats in particular, are going to start chipping away. I guarantee you there is a very large file sitting at the Democratic headquarters that has what is lovingly referred to as opposition research. It almost makes it sound noble. It's really all of the things that you can go after your opposition with. Every mean tweet, every angry text, every bad social media post, every bad interview, all of those things are now going to be right under the microscope. And so the test for J.D. Vance, Senator J.D. Vance, now vice presidential pick J.D. Vance, begins now. And so that will be a fascinating thing to watch. And again, I am so curious to see if he goes back to his base and what he is strong in, what really brought him onto the national scene as a thinker, as a writer, as someone who knows how to express themselves, or if he stays in this more populist grievance mode that up until Saturday was really the driving force in the Trump presidential campaign. It's going to be fascinating to watch. We'll continue to watch all of that and rethink what we think we know about this new vice presidential pick. We'll also continue to stay tuned when former President Trump, the nominee for the Republicans now for the third time, when he steps to a microphone to address the delegates there in Milwaukee. We'll stay with all of it right here on KSL News Radio. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. The Republican convention.
It's been an 18-month process.
May be different after the attempt on Donald Trump's life.
We are actually ready with the resources.
Get full coverage mornings and afternoons and join the conversation middays. Trump shooting investigation all this week on KSL News Radio.
Troy, how is it possible that we're already past the summer solstice?
And how is it possible that Bish's is already celebrating our first full year in American Fork right now?
So, what are we going to do to make the most out of the rest of summer and celebrate our first anniversary?
Oh, buddy, buckle all the way up for the biggest Bish's RV block party you've ever experienced.
Let's make the rest of summer the best of summer with the lowest pricing of the season on all new and used RVs.
With payments as low as $179 per month on approved credit, 0 down, and an unheard of 5-year extended warranty.
Plus, purchase any RV during the sale and receive free propane refills for life for as long as you own the RV.
And July 19th and 20th, get free lunch from 11 to 2 and let the family play all day long with activities for the kids. Go to Bish's.com/summerblock party for more details.
Kickstart the rest of your summer at the Bish's RV Summer Block Party, July 15th through the 20th.
Only at Bish's RV of American Fork, where memories begin.
OIC based on 0% down, 7.9% APR for 180 months. Stock number L75171, subject to prior sale. Deal number A22B. See dealer for details. Feeling the heat at home in places your air conditioning can't reach? You might be overlooking a common culprit, your attic ventilation. Poor attic ventilation can spike your energy bills and shorten your roof's lifespan. Don't sweat it out this summer. Master Roofing is here to help. This July, Master Roofing is offering a free attic ventilation inspection and 20% off all attic ventilation services. Certified inspectors are ready to optimize your home's comfort and efficiency. Call 801-383-0072 or visit masterroofingutah.com to schedule your free inspection today.
This Friday from 10 to 1, the movie show comes to Sound Sleep Medical. But first, take the time to learn about a better night's rest. Sound Sleep Medical delivers oral appliance therapy that treats sleep apnea without the use of CPAP machines. They're professionally fit, warranted, and covered by most major medical insurance. In the days of a poor night's sleep, Sound Sleep Medical will help. Call Sound Sleep Medical at 801-716-8672 for details. Sound Sleep Medical.
My wife and I always loved doing everything together. Jiu-jitsu, kayaking, and intimacy was always on point. It was around my early 30s when I noticed a downward trend. Watching a lot of TV, putting on weight, and just full of self-doubt. I had tried another men's clinic with disappointing results. It's the personalized treatment I receive at Revive Men's Health that has been the complete game changer for me. I've got my energy and motivation back, I'm feeling stronger than I did in my 20s, and it made me a much better husband to my wife.
I'm Eric Ramos, healthcare provider at Revive Men's Health. If you're always feeling tired or moody, have a difficult time sleeping, or decreased libido, you may be suffering from low testosterone.
Book your free T-check and exam at Revive Men's Health, Salt Lake City. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Don't miss limited time doorbusters during Pro Savings Days, right now at Lowe's. Starting July 15th for 3 days only, you can save $60 when you buy a DeWalt 12-volt multi-head drill driver. Was $189, now $129. Plus, get 50% off a DeWalt Tough Grip 110-piece screwdriver bit set. Shop these deals and more while supplies last. Because Lowe's knows savings, Lowe's knows pros. Valid 7/15 through 7/17. Selection varies by location.
The best things in life, they come in twos. 2 scoops of ice cream, 2 tacos. And now for a limited time, get our best deal of the year. Buy any phone when you switch to Consumer Cellular and get 2 months of service free. That's right, the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage as Big Wireless, now with 2 months free. Proof the best things in life really do come in twos. Visit consumercellular.com or call 1-888-FREEDOM. Second and third month of monthly base service fee waived for new customers with the purchase of a phone and activation by July 31st, 2024. Taxes, fees, and third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance is former President Trump's choice as the Republican candidate for vice president. Second, the classified documents case against Trump has been dismissed, but it's not clear yet what effect that could have on other cases in the federal and state courts. And third, Utah's experiencing a seasonal surge in COVID cases this summer. 90 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today, as always. I am Boyd Matheson, and we're continuing to watch all the events as they play out, both at the Republican National Convention, of course, things still happening in our nation's capital. And don't forget, we still have a host of things going on around the world that also require some of our attention. We still have Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine and what is happening there, the support and non-support or dragging the feet support, what's going on there. We should break that down in terms of what that looks like. The Middle East continues to be a mess and not a lot of progress in terms of getting to anything that would lead to hostages, all the hostages being freed and a ceasefire being put in place. And I think it does begin with the hostages. I think that has to be first, last, and always in that conversation. And so as we continue to watch all of these things unfold, we started the program talking about the fact that the one individual who was killed in the shooting over the weekend, and again, we're not even 48 hours in, just how comfortable Americans have become with contempt, with the people that we disagree with. And here you had someone who literally lost their life protecting their family from a shooter. And people online could not wait a nanosecond and immediately started to pile on comments that he had made or posts that he had put on his social media, his support for the former president. And you can debate support for one candidate or the other. That's fine. But the fact that they would so viciously go after someone who had just given their life in the ultimate in heroic acts to save the life of his family, that's what worries me most about where we are as a country. And part of this, I think, comes from where we've been as a country in terms of being a grievance society. Grievance is this zero-sum game of somehow, if you're doing better, that means I'm doing less better, or I'm even doing worse because you're doing better. And therefore, I need to be against you. It's class warfare, it's race warfare, it's faith warfare, it's all of those things. And it's all about grievance and being offended. We have people in our country and in our communities who are so good at grievance, they can actually be preemptively offended. They can be preemptively offended because they know so-and-so is going to say this, or that awful neighbor is going to do that, or that horrific politician is going to do this. And so they get offended before anything even happens, preemptively offended. It's a crazy space to be. And yet that's where we are. Because when you're offended, then your grievance has some passion behind it. Then you can really dig deep into that contempt, that anger, that frustration, the unfairness of it all. That it's all rigged, that it's all set up because of the evil, awful, horrible other side of whatever the issue is. It's always the same. It's always the evil, awful, horrible other side. And that grievance, to me, is a big part of the problem. Because if you're always just looking at the grievance component, you never get to the solution part of the program. Now, I will note that our country and one of our founding documents is kind of a grievance document. The Declaration of Independence, it's a long list of grievances against King George and the Crown. All the things that they had done wrong, taxation without representation, search and seizure, all of the things. It's a long laundry list of grievances. And yet within that document, and then moving into the Declaration of into the Constitution, that took them another 14 years to get to, we went from that grievance moment to a moment of real progress. And my worry is right now we seem to be stuck in grievance. All we can do is list the problems. All we can do is list how awful the other guys are or the other gals are. And we have all the reasons to be offended because of how awful and terrible they are. You hear this in the context of a lot of what about? But what about? But what about President Biden this? But what about former President Trump that? What about this horrible party this? What about this awful person that? And it's the yeah but. There's no yeah but. There's just a lot of ands. And we even saw this even just hours after an attempted assassination on a former president and a presumptive nominee for a political party for president of the United States. And people were saying, well, the former president is about all that kind of angry, violent rhetoric, and now we have this. And then you had those on the other side saying the Biden campaign for months and months and months has been on this message that the former president is a threat to democracy, that he has to be stopped, and on and on and on and on. It's not a yeah but, and it's not a compare. It's an and conversation. Former President Trump has been part of the conversation, the grievance conversation. And the current president, Joe Biden, has been part of the offended kind of rhetoric that none of us should be surprised that we end up to physical violence because our verbal violence is everywhere. And you've heard me say it many times on this program, words have meaning and the meaning matters. And so rather than justifying what you're doing or not doing, or screaming at how horrible the other side is, that they're worse, or like your little children, they started it. None of that holds any water. None of that matters. The words matter. The meaning matter. The tone matter. And so if we do want to get to this moment of unity, and yes, the President of the United States talked about that from the White House, the ultimate setting that we should all respect, regardless of who's sitting in there behind the resolute desk, I think President Biden was right. Unity is an elusive goal, but nothing's more important. We can debate. We can disagree. But we can't lose sight of the fact that we're all Americans. Then, of course, the former president has told the Republican National Convention that the theme for the week needs to be unity. He told his advisors to make sure that the speakers dial it down, not dial it up. And so now the question will be, who actually does it? Who actually leads? I mentioned this earlier in the program, and I'll come back to it right now because I think it's so important. I want both of these people who want to be the president of the United States for 4 more years. I want them to tell us what they're going to do and what they're going to instruct their teams, their campaigns, the people around them to do different. And then I want them to invite the American people to do the same. Because I do believe this is not a point finger and place blame moment in this country. This is a look in the mirror moment where we can all decide, what am I doing? And what will I do to dial it down? What will I do to ease some of those misunderstandings? What will I do to cure the contempt in this country or in my community or in my own home and in my own relationships? It's up to us, folks. This will not be solved from the highest office of the land or the halls of Congress. This will be solved by you and me getting to know our neighbors, connecting with those that we disagree with, being radically curious about why people think the way they do, believe the way they do, and then seeing the dignity and even the divinity in their humanity, because that's actually the only path we can take to move it all forward. We'll be right back.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this afternoon. Former President Trump has won the Republican nomination for president this afternoon at the party's convention in Milwaukee, with Utah Senator Mike Lee putting him up for the delegate vote.
And his newly announced running mate, my friend and colleague, J.D. Vance.
Senator Vance was once a vocal critic of Trump's, but says he was wrong and has since become a strong supporter. A retired FBI agent in Utah has his guess on where the security breakdown happened on Saturday that led to the attempted assassination of former President Trump. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobabe has that story.
The Secret Service doesn't actually have a lot of manpower on its own, according to retired Supervisory Special Agent Carl Schmay. He says when they have an outdoor event like the rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday, they'll usually coordinate with a local law enforcement to cover the outside perimeter.
And Schmay says it's often harder to secure an event outdoors. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up 210 points to close trading today, while the NASDAQ was up 74, the S&P 500 up 15. And our KSL weather, it'll turn hot again in a day or two. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
Good morning. I'm the 25% off window company.
25% off?
It's our biggest discount ever.
So what happened to the 40% off you were offering a couple months ago?
Well,
nothing. It's baloney. Hi, this is Kathy.
The Doug of Window World. When you hear those things, you know you've entered the baloney zone.
Resist the force of the baloney zone.
Call today.
281-8111.
Window World. Simply the best for less. And that's no baloney.
July has some wacky holidays. Did you know that it's National Picnic Month? But my favorite is National Carpet Cleaning Month. At Zero Res, it's the holiday we wait for all year. RZR Water cleans carpet without leaving behind any icky, crunchy residue. Top off your clean with an expert air duct service for a healthier home. So celebrate with Zero Res and mention the KSL special to get 3 rooms of carpet clean for $99 plus 2 free tickets to Broovies Cinema Pub. Get showtimes and tickets at broovies.com and book your cleaning today at zerores.com.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies, because feeling full can sound like this.
How did the interview go? I did it! I got the job! I can't believe it!
And like this.
Mom, I got first place at the science fair with my volcano project.
That's amazing, sweetie. Congratulations.
Because when people are fed, futures are nourished, and everyone deserves to live a full life. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/act now. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud phone system. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm? I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business comm at ooma.com/radio.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want to tell you about our famous "You Don't Need a Warranty" warranty. That's right. It's a warranty you don't need, but we give it to you anyway. Let me explain. Most warranty problems for siding, gutters, and windows are caused by not installing stuff right in the first place. If you rush the work, cut corners, or use subpar materials, you're just begging for problems later. At RGS Exteriors, we don't tolerate careless workmanship. We slow down, focus on every detail, and use only the best materials. We prevent warranty work by doing the job right in the first place. That's why the 10-year everything guarantee we give you is also known as our "You Don't Need a Warranty" warranty. We absolutely will be there if you need to use it. But honestly, you probably will never have to. Done right the first time. That's the RGS way. For siding, gutters, and windows, call 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsexteriors.com.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
2 crashes on northbound I-15 in Farmington, one by Glover Lane, the other near the Highway 89 State Street area. That one is blocking 2 right lanes of traffic, and we're starting to see delays into Centerville. This is the place, Heritage Park. Don't miss July celebrations and fun-filled days, starting with Liberty Day, Super Duper Day, and Pioneer Day. Activities all month. Visit thisistheplace.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Mostly sunny with a high of 97, and there's a chance of thunderstorms over the mountains, possibly getting into the valleys of the Wasatch Front. It'll get hot again, up to 100 on Wednesday. And right now we're at 91 degrees. It's partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, as we continue to unpack the chilling assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump less than 48 hours ago. Hard to believe that we are less than 48 hours from that. Of course, we're also tracking what is happening in Milwaukee at the Republican National Convention, including J.D. Vance being selected as the running mate and former President Trump becoming the official nominee for the Republicans for the third time. And in the course of our conversation, we have been spending a lot of time talking about the real issue in the country, which is contempt. The idea that someone you disagree with is not just wrong, but wrong and evil, and therefore wrong and worthless, the worthlessness of an individual because you disagree with them, is such a deep-seated problem that we've got to get to. Everything else, I think, is just reaching at the branches. in terms of the core cause. This isn't done by the former president or the current president or either political party for that matter. This is a you and me moment. This is a we the people moment. Really wonderful piece in The Atlantic, The Power of Restraint. We believe in restraint. Restraint always works. Peter Wehner is a contributing writer at The Atlantic, senior fellow at the Trinity Forum, and he penned this piece for The Atlantic. And Peter, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Love your approach in going after what I think is a crucial part of just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. And that seems to be where we get stuck these days is we think we can say anything, especially we can say anything if it's someone that we disagree with.
Yeah, I think that's right. There really aren't guardrails. There isn't restraint. People are impassioned, angry, a lot of really strong emotions, and very few checks on those emotions. And now we have the capacity through social media and other means to broadcast those emotions, those feelings, that rage. You know, in the past, these human emotions aren't new, and neither is the fact that politics causes people to get lit up, and you know, the amygdala regions of our minds get triggered. But we now live in an age in which that kind of thing, where it was once contained, can now be broadcast all around the world. There are information silos that exist that haven't existed nearly as much in the past, and then you have political figures who are in an unusual way, and I think a very deleterious, dangerous way, stoking up these passions. So it's a kind of confluence of a lot of dangerous stuff.
Yeah, no question about it. And I do think that we have been conditioned by, we'll just call it the political industrial complex, that we've been conditioned to respond inappropriately to those negative base emotions of anger and fear and frustration and contempt. And it seems to me that we've got to get into that space and make that kind of disconnection if we're going to make the other side of that, which is the reconnection to people and to dignity and to humanity and even to divinity.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to put it. And institutions have an important role to play in that, as they always do. Institutions shape the moral sensibilities of human beings, and so there's been a failure of institutional leadership, a failure of political leadership, and we're now in a situation in which I'd say in politics, some of the worst things in politics and the darkest parts of human nature, people are incentivized to actually to trigger those things, to catalyze them. So there's a lot that we have to unwind to get to where we want to be. Just one maybe footnote to that that I think is an important, which is I think there's a sense in which often people like myself who are worried about this moment think it's genuinely destructive to our political and civic culture and our national life. Speak as if we have to unify and agree on everything. That's not going to happen. It's never happened. What we have to do is to remind ourselves that we can disagree and we can do it in a way that doesn't dehumanize.
Yeah, and that is such an important thing. It's the dehumanization, it's the weaponizing of the words, it's the demonizing of someone who disagrees with you. And just to re-emphasize on your point that this is not about a kumbaya moment. This is not a group hug and skipping sunshine and lollipops down the trail. I think we're always at our best as a nation when we have big, open, roiling debates about the future and what policies will work best. I think those are all important. And one of the things that I loved in your piece, you actually talked about the Hebrew word shalom. And I think that's super instructive. I think a lot of us kind of toss that around as as something everyone can at least say, oh, I know what that word is. You took it to a different level. Explain why it's such a great framing in terms of the conversations we should be having.
Yeah, thanks. It is a Hebrew word, and it's often translated to mean peace, and it does mean peace in the sense of absence of war and even absence of conflict. But it's a much deeper concept, as I understand it, which it has to do with harmony between people and God, between people and one another, wholeness, fulfillment. So it's a very rich concept, but this idea of being in harmony is, I think, a lovely one, and a very, very powerful one. And I do think it speaks to this moment, because there's so much disharmony that characterizes the times in which we live. And I think part of what we have to do is to explain why human fulfillment is found in a kind of shalom, a kind of harmony, a kind of peace. These are not just code words or fancy words or the words of theologians or sociologists. It's the notion of how do we as individuals flourish in our everyday lives. And I think that our political culture is getting in the way of that right now. One doesn't want to overstate it. I mean, most people's lives are lived in the non-political sphere, right? It's within families and communities and churches and work environments. On the other hand, the political and civic culture can invade and pervade those other institutions. I've had a number of conversations. In fact, not long ago, I was on a Zoom call with 7 or 8 pastors from the PCA, Presbyterian Church of America, which is a conservative Presbyterian denomination. Just listening to them, and they were talking about how the politics has spilled over into church life. So it's not necessarily just political battles. People are short with one another. They're quicker to judge one another. There's an antipathy that exists that wasn't there in the past. So what happens in politics and the broader culture, seeps into other areas, including some of these really important institutions, and then it creates strains on these relationships. And I'm sure you've heard from your listeners, maybe in your own life, how families have been divided by politics today in ways that really we haven't seen in my lifetime.
Yeah, no question. And I love that sentiment. I think that's so important for us to really put a finger and get to the heart and essence of. We often frame it here in the context of, we've really deified our politics, and we've politicized our faith and our churches and our families. And to me, that's the real danger zone. And getting back to this idea of wholeness, I love the whole idea of wholeness, and it's a oneness that is not sameness. And sadly, our politics has made it so everything's a purity test, that if you're not this, then you're that. And the fake fights and the false choices that prevent us from having the real conversation about the real important issues that we actually need to come together to solve in all our uniqueness. We don't have to totally agree, but if we can stay radically curious, so I can say, I wonder why Peter thinks that's the best solution, or I wonder why Mary's going at it that way, then we can start to have a different kind of conversation that I think will lead to that wholeness that you talk about. But it does take restraint, but restraint always works. Peter Wehner, contributing writer at The Atlantic. This is a fabulous piece. Check it out at theatlantic.com. Peter's also with a senior fellow at the Trinity Forum as well. Peter, brilliantly written, wonderful thoughts, and thanks for giving us some proper perspective today as well.
I appreciate you having me on. Take care.
All right, that's Peter Wehner again, contributing writer at The Atlantic, senior fellow at the Trinity Forum, and some wonderful perspective for all of us as we continue to unravel and unpack the events of the last not even 48 hours. I just want to stress that. We are not even 48 hours in from an assassination attempt, and there's so many moving parts and players. We'll continue to follow all of those, break it down. We'll come back for one more segment of Inside Sources coming up next. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey there, it's Julie from Logan, where we know how to celebrate summer. First, something super cool when it's really hot. Logan has a brand new plaza downtown with music and games and a splash pad for kids. I mean, I said kids, but hey, we don't judge. Jump in. Keep it cool by stepping inside one of 3 historic theaters for more than 250 professional live performances in 5 weeks. Wow, nobody does that. But we do because we're Utah's heart of the arts. Chill on Center Street before or after the show and sink your teeth into sourdough pizza, a brew and a burger, hand-dipped chocolates, or other delicious goodies from fun cafes. Don't forget, your hotel is only 10 minutes from the National Forest for hiking and biking. Take gorgeous photos of the stunning scenery and enjoy cooler temperatures in the canyon. Step back in time at the American West Heritage Center. You can hang out with a mountain man, have a pony ride, meet pioneers, and check out the farm. We've got a lot going on. Check us out at ExploreLogan.com. Inside or out, we're always a few degrees cooler. ExploreLogan.com. ExploreLogan.com.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Every business faces challenges, but complicated, expensive, and uncertain shipping shouldn't be one of them.
With USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service, you can avoid all the noise.
No more unexpected surcharges, hidden fees, or complex rate structures.
It's just easy, cost-effective, and dependable shipping. Tune your business's frequency to success and turn shipping to your advantage. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable.
Do you know why more homeowners choose Any Hour Services for help when it's time to replace their air conditioners? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and the main reasons people choose Any Hour Services is because of our people, processes, and convenience. People tell us all the time that there's just something different about having an Any Hour Services technician in their home. That's why most of our over 18,000 Google reviews mention our technicians by name. Another reason is our 7-step install process that we call the Any Hour Difference. It all starts with the needs analysis, where you explain what you like and dislike about your current system. This helps us design and size a system that fits your comfort and efficiency preferences as well as your home's airflow requirements. As for convenience, most of our installs are completed in one day. We also have flexible, no money down financing options available, even if you've been told no in the past. So if you've been thinking about getting a new air conditioner, call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate today. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Wow. Biden's at it again.
Inflation, rising costs for everything. What now?
Try big government control of our Medicare drug benefit.
The more I hear, the more it seems we can't afford Biden's Medicare agenda.
They're right. And it's because seniors are already feeling the pain of Biden's drug coverage changes, with almost 2 million forced from their plans and spiked premiums for nearly 5 million more. Now, Congress wants to expand the Biden Medicare agenda even more. But studies show Biden's plan will restrict access, shrink coverage, and limit availability of needed drugs for all seniors. Thankfully, Congressman Blake Moore is a champion for Medicare drug coverage. Call him at 202-224-3121. Urge him to stop Biden's radical Medicare changes by opposing H.R. 4895 now. Paid for by Seniors for Better Care.
With interest rates coming back down, I bet the real estate market will pick back up in 2024. We're already seeing that, Tim.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter how the market is doing when you have the right team. So if you're looking to sell your house, now you want to downsize or you need more space, you need the Stern team.
The Stern team has taught us, I can think of a handful of things that I would worry about if I was buying or selling, but there are 100 details that are involved in selling a home, and they have lots of people that are handling every detail so nothing falls through the cracks.
And they have so many different options. I mean, I worked with Cammie there at the Stern team, and she was awesome. But if you need an instant cash offer, you can do that. If you need to buy before you sell, you can do that. They have flexible fees.
They also have people that they represent that are looking to buy a home, so maybe they can make that perfect connection within the Stern team.
So don't put off selling your house or buying a house because you think the market isn't just right. The market is right with the Stern team.
Go online to sternteam.com or just Google The Stern Team.
Utah, you love the summers, so don't spend it painting. Do what Mike did. He called Rhino Shield.
Our home is basically a contemporary with stucco finish, and we just started noticing that the paint was just fading and the stucco would just look like garbage. We had received a postcard from Rhino Shield, and we decided to take a look at it.
Rhino Shield ceramic technology is formulated for our unique climate here in Utah and is Class 1 fire rated.
The process with Rhino Shield and their crew, they were just very conscientious. We had problems in the past with painters. They leave debris and everything. Well, we didn't have that with Rhino Shield.
You too can get the guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield right now for 10% off the regular price.
The thing about Rhino Shield, the heat gain has been reduced, and we save $70 a month. You don't hear that about any type of paint.
Remember, Utah, this is a limited time offer, so call now, 435-246-4466 or rhinoshieldwest.com. That's rhinoshieldwest.com.
Go Rhino Shield.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, the Republican convention in Milwaukee took care of two key pieces of business this afternoon: the nomination of Donald Trump as president and the selection of Senator J.D. Vance as his running mate. Second, a retired FBI agent thinks he knows what went wrong in security arrangements that allowed the assassination attempt on former President Trump. And third, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from the Philippines are cheering the news of another temple in their homeland. 91 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It is great to be with you today, as always. I am Boyd Matheson, and of course there's a lot of news and a lot of headlines going on, and we're trying to get underneath all of those to give you some of the nuances and hopefully some things to think again about as it relates to where we are as a nation, what each of us individually and all of us collectively need to do. Of course, we noted just within the last hour, former President Donald Trump has secured the nomination for the third time in a row. He is the official nominee for the Republican Party. And we are watching right now his newly minted running mate, J.D. Vance, 39-year-old senator from Ohio. He is 2 years into his political career as a United States senator. He is currently on the floor at the convention center there in Milwaukee, working the crowd, working his way through, soaking up the moment. And this is one of those, if you haven't been to a convention before, the people who get assigned to speak on the first day of the convention, it is the hardest job on the planet because you have a very distracted, very raucous group of delegates on the floor. They're all so excited to be there at the convention, all the anticipation. Now you've got a VP finally named as the running mate. And now some poor soul is standing at the podium trying to deliver the speech that they'd worked so hard on and their big moment to shine. And the entire audience is focused on the floor as J.D. Vance works the crowd. He is working along. He's taking some selfies. He's currently signing a campaign sign, getting that. That will become a collector's item. Selfies are flashing all over the place. So it'll be interesting. He is supposed to be speaking soon. They are saying that we will hear from Senator J.D. Vance soon. So whether he continues his waltz through the convention center and right up the steps onto the stage, we will see. We will take that live for you, of course, here on KSL News Radio. We've got you covered in all the coverage that is going on as it relates to the politics of the day today. And again, J.D. Vance is still making his way through the kind of the convention of states there. He's working his way through each of the delegations, stopping for some handshakes and hugs. And what a moment. Think about that. If you know anything about J.D. Vance, again, 39 years old, was elected to the Senate in 2022. He's a former Marine, served in Iraq, Ivy League graduate, went to Yale Law School, really brilliant thinker. And, of course, most people know J.D. Vance not by his name but by his book, his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, which talks about his own upbringing in rural America, in intergenerational families that were dealing with addiction and poverty and all of those challenges. and very interesting piece that really kind of catapulted him onto the national stage. But again, he's still mostly unknown, mostly untested when it comes to the politics of all of this. And so there's going to be a lot to unpack, and there will be a lot to take a look at over the next several days and the next several weeks. And this will be an interesting component. Now, J.D. Vance over the weekend, after the attempted assassination on the former president, he was one of the first Republicans to come out and condemn President Biden's language about President Trump, that he needed to be stopped, that he was a threat to democracy. And so he was the first to really call that out, that, hey, President Biden needs to change his rhetoric, that he needs to change some of his divisive language. And so it will be interesting to see that. J.D. Vance has really ridden the populist wave, has been very much on the grievance message, the us versus them kind of language. And now he finds himself in the widest and hottest of spotlights. He is about to receive scrutiny of every aspect of his life, more than he has ever experienced before. And that's part of the gig and part of the job. He will be criticized roundly by his opponents. His life will be picked apart by those who want to undermine his credibility or the confidence of people in him as the number two. And especially in an election like this, where age of both the top of the ticket, both the current and the former president, is an issue, having someone who is 39 years of age will be an interesting thing to see how that plays out. Do they see that as young and inexperienced, or do they see that as a new generation of leaders? That will be the test of the messaging departments as that all moves forward. Now, we're still looking at the screen here as J.D. Vance is, I think, gotten over to the Ohio section, and it looks like he may step to the microphone there. We will pick that. Do we have any sound picked up on that yet, Alex? You hearing anything on the floor? All right, they are just introducing. Let's go ahead and pick that up live for a second here. Just give you a little feel and flavor of what's happening on the floor at the convention in Milwaukee.
To represent America abroad, to preside over the Senate, and to be ready to lead our nation at a moment's notice. Such a man must have an America first attitude in his heart. He must, amen. He must embrace his obligation to the American family, the American worker, and the American soldier. He must believe that America is exceptional. And be prepared, in the tradition of our founders, to pledge his life, his fortune, his sacred honor to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. He must share the values and principles of our presidential nominee and be trusted to faithfully implement the will of.
If you're just joining us, we're listening to the introduction of J.D. Vance as the vice presidential candidate on the ticket. We expect him to start speaking. We'll continue to listen to that introduction, and Jeff Kaplan joins you to take you home.
You're listening to KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Back to Milwaukee.
A man who loves America and will represent our people with moral courage, strength. He served our